the lost soul. As I fly between the skies, completely lost in space and time, belonging nowhere, roving everywhere, the only thing I know is all the things I miss. The company of forlorn friends, completely at a loss as I, my fellow wanderers in wilderness, belonging nowhere, out of place, wherever we appear, and all that we can do to somehow keep some foothold is to stick at least together to the only certain thing we have, our love and friendship for each other. Maybe in some better world, beyond all chaos and disasters, we shall find at last some time to smile indeed, as we shall meet again occasionally through the eons. Ultimatum. Give me liberty or give me death, O Henry, who spent 3 years in prison. Without control but flying high, irrelevant of space and time and any order of the universe, I just keep wuthering and can't define my destination, which keeps baffling me. And so I just go on, identifying one place in the wrong place and another one far beyond reach, as I fall down again into the abyss of mortality and passion and despair. The enemy called weakness getting hold of you, the only possible protection and defense just being obstinate resistance and protest against the enemies to my escape on wings of chance and spiritual fugue to get away beyond all pettiness, the only sane environment of any man. The only liberty is total liberty, and if that is beyond reach, the only possible alternative is death, the definite and ultimate release. Keep it growing. My love, don't cut your hair. Don't make your beauty shorter. Just let it grow and let me hide in it, to ever worship what this richness stands for. Generosity and sweetness, light, delight and affluence, the constant growth of nature's finest purity, the symbol of your very personality, the most profound enigma veiled up in a mystery that never can be fathomed without opening an abyss of a bottomless eternity of darkness. Let me seek protection from that peril by escaping into that unfathomable beauty of your hair, so ultimate a perfect hiding place, the only absolute protection against anything that ever bothered me. Another reason, it makes you younger, this expansion of your hair, this prolonging of your beauty, this free growth without infringement, this vast wealth of light and generosity embodied in your gorgeous hair for me to tousle in, to happily get lost, like in a web of charming dreams, of infinite seduction and allurement, fascination and enchantment, adding to your spell and total power, to which I must willingly succumb. Continue thus, my love, and let it grow to ever brighter beauty, and that will be some insurance that I never will be able to forsake you, tire of you, or give up my dream of everlasting love, forever growing comfortably and harmoniously with you. Helt invaliderad försöker du till varje pris få luft att andas, men den bara tryter, medan du oändligt långsamt kvävs, men ej tillräckligt för att dö, men bara för att hållas döende. Av all tortyr, den mest olidligt plågsamma, och allting bara dör omkring dig, utom hoppet. Det är samma sak vartenda år. Den grymma vinterns köld begraver livet levande, men varje vår är underverket där igen, uppståndelsen, med livet återställt och triumferande, men aldrig utan samma vinterliga trauma och tortyr som gör allt för att mörda dig och sparar endast bråkdelen av en partikel för att oundvikliggöra din återuppståndelse. Incapacitated, you desperately gasp for air but cannot reach it, being slowly suffocated, but just not enough to die, but merely to remain in constant dying, among tortures most unbearable of all is dead and dying except hope. It happens every year again. Cruel winter buries life alive, while every spring there is the miracle again of resurrection, love reviving, life triumphing. But the ordeal is the same each bloody hellish winter, putting you and all life on the rack to all but kill you off, just saving a small whiff of life enough to make the resurrection workably inevitable. Midwinter light, let me keep you in my heart and warm you for the winter, in protection of my piety against the coldness of adversities, and try to vest you with a better life without the hardships and the sufferings that you indeed did not deserve. If I could just assuage the outrage of your tormentous afflictions, it certainly would be a triumph for my tenderest ambitions, and I would not hesitate to be most actively consistent about carrying through that quest of humble love and tender faith towards our sorely tried relationship that is the more ideal for all your sufferings and our trials. Let this be my offering to you, out of the darkness of midwinter, as the smallest but the most enduring light of love that so far never failed. Presence. As I wake up in the night and find myself afloat in emptiness, surrounded by a sea of silence, you are all around me like a fairy at my cradle, or a guardian angel for that matter, filling me with unexpected awe and worship of the express moment, as the sweetness of your music quietly embalms me as I sink into the sea of love, of precious piety and intimate respect, as I feel there is nothing truer, nothing more important and more palpable than this existence of this actual love that quietly pervades the universe, as I, in perfect loneliness and silence, must accept the undeniability that you are closing in on me, as love is getting nearer in its universal intimacy, ruling powerfully all the world, as you engulf me by your distant presence. Her triumph. The shattering and shocking tragedy of your outrageous fall fills me with paralyzed dismay, while no one can remain unmoved by such a shocking story and adversity, which would have killed an ordinary person off. But I would think your sensitivity has saved you. Oaken trees of stalwart hardiness will break at heavy storms, while rushes, whipped down to the ground, will rise again as soon as the storm is over. Your vulnerability is utterly extreme, but will by its mere delicacy, deep-felt empathy, and total flexibility survive whatever earthquake cataclysms, emerging only nobler and more beautiful for all the undeserved atrocious trials. As each flower after winter, and the irrevocability of growing daylight after every midwinter nadir. And thus you triumph in your worst defeat, maturity renewing your nobility, and harmony transcending all discord to settle down in peace. Hibernation. We are happy to at least survive the hardship and adversities of this recession winter, of increasing discontent, the weakest falling deepest, reeked down in the gutter, while we barely even keep our noses above water, languishing and gasping desperately for some space to breathe in this deep frozen world of violated spiritual values. Starving artists starve to death, and bankrupt journals must close down. Publishers just scrap your manuscripts for your audacity to even make an offer. And commercialism increases in monstrosity and cruelty, with the preposterous society of self-consumption ruining the planet, forcing all idealism out of business. Still we manage to survive the winter blossoms and perennials, since we are used to hibernating, being certain of our case, that beauty always must survive all ugliness, that love lasts longer than all mortal brawl, and longer than eternity, which is a party for survival. Winter terror. Darkness looms as coldness steals upon you, sneaking even into bed with you, to pester you with sleepless nights, with no chance ever to get warm again, as nightmares gather in delirious crowds to drive you nuts and sick all over, fever raging in your veins as everything continues to get worse. And still, right in the heart of darkness, suddenly again there was a recognition of the kind of love that never dies but keeps revitalizing even under the most desperate conditions, graciously renewing all your energy and strength by simply showing off in sheer existence the supreme untouchability of sovereign integrity of beauty, carrying all before her through the ages, as is her noble want and operation, never brought down or defeated, pure serenity of absolute survival. Thank you for thus gracing me by only making an appearance, instantly replacing all the winter terrors with resplendent light. Skönhetsfråga. När är du som vackrast? Är det under sommarens gyllene tid, när allting blomstrar i sin högsta prakt och grönskan prunkar med sin friskhet så att hela världen sprudlar av ren skönhet? Eller är det under höstens färggrannhet, när skördar mättar livets fullhet så att melankolin tar över med mer eftersinnande betraktelse som gör skönheten än mer oemotståndlig? Eller är det under vinterns prövningar, när folk och vänner svetsas samman och familjer kommer närmare varandra i den absoluta vita renhet som hör vinterns skönhet till? Eller är det under vårens renässans, när livet vaknar upp ifrån de döda mera triumferande än någonsin, i explosivt dynamisk skönhet, mera överraskande för varje år? Nej, du är aldrig vackrast under någon skönhetsklimax högsäsong, för du är alltid vackrast oberoende av tid och årstid. A question of beauty. When are you loveliest? Is it in the golden summertime, when everything is flourishing in sumptuousness, and greenth extols in health and wealth, to make the whole world sparkle in full glory? Or is it in the fall of colourfulness, when the harvests fill the needs of life, to make some room for afterthought and melancholy, turning life and beauty the more irresistible? Or is it in the heavy trials of dark winter, when severity makes people cuddle up and turn more closely to each other in the absolute white purity which makes the winter beauty sovereign? Or is it in the spring renaissance, when life wakes up from the dead in more triumphant ecstasy than ever, in explosive dynamics of beauty more surprising every year? No, you are never loveliest in any high season of beauty, since you always are the loveliest, out of time regardless of all seasons. Isblommor, de må vara frysta men de lever under ytan av frigiditet, den bottenfrusna kärleken som aldrig gavs en chans men levde desto mera, som vulkanen under oceanens yta, som aldrig kom till utbrott utom inom sig i det fördolda. Men i all sin frusenhet är isblomman ändå där och oantastlig i sin skönhet, som är desto bättre konserverad i sin absoluta renhet. Och ingenting är fruset som en dag måste tina upp, och isblommornas frö är hela våren. Utrotningshotad minoritet. Det har den varit under hela förra seklet, under ständig krympning och resignation. Men den har ej tidigare gett upp hoppet, som nu fler och fler tycks göra. Blott en 10-del för 20 år sedan, men idag en 1/3 tror ej mer på en framtid för oss finlandssvenskar, fastän vi förblir konstanta numerärt. Mest har vi jämfört oss med Islands folk, av samma storlek ungefär och lika litterära, men det har ej haft över sig en tryckande majoritet som mer och mer framhävt sin överväldigande dominans. Vad vill ni med oss finnar? Vill ni att vi ska försvinna? Aldrig har vi varit populära för förfinskningen, men snarare tacksamma som objekt för trakassering av utbölingar som sticker av och som är allt för få för att förmå försvara sig, allt medan lagens skydd allt mera kringgås. Men den brydsamma situationen är dock relativ. Är inte hela mänskligheten redan på fallrepet, som lyckats få naturen själv med allt dess liv utrotningshotad genom mänskligt slarv, inkompetens och misshushållning, som dock den missbrukande mänskligheten ej kan överleva utan? Finlandssvenskarna är som utrotningshotat folk i bästa sällskap med Amerikas indianer, Söderhavets underbara polynesier och tibetanerna som Kina helst vill likvidera, som om 60 års trakasserier och förtryck med ständigt övervåld mot tibetansk identitet och dess kultur ej var tillräckligt, som om en slutgiltig lösning var av nöden, vilket för oss till det andra världskrigets förintelse med dess traumatiska problematik som lever än. Vem vann väl någonting på det och var det värt det? Resultatet blev allenast att nu Israel är starkare än på 2000 år. Orpheus, you descend unto us mortals, bringing light and inspiration, with a joy of beauty as a dream of immortality, as the mere existence of your person, O talented son of the ideal Apollo, gives not only hope to all humanity, but lightens up all hopelessness and hell itself, with all its doomed, accursed souls, condemned to suffer in extremity forever, like ourselves this winter. Well, your visit was indeed most welcome, like a well-deserved renewal of the show, with better hopes this time that your inspiring and revitalizing gifts will keep us going for it yet again, for yet another moment of eternity. Orpheus, oväntat besök. Du nedstiger till oss i nåd från idealens värld med ljus och skänker oss inspiration med all den glädje som din skönhet ger, med glimten av odödlighetens möjlighet. Då blotta existensen av ditt väsen och personlighet, Apollons främste son, ger inte blott all mänskligheten hopp, men skänker ljus åt själva helvetet, med alla dess fördömda själar, grymt ihjältorterade för evigt, som vi själva denna vinter. Kort sagt, din visit var verkligen välkommen, som en efterlängtad nypremiär, med bättre hopp för framtiden, att dina inspirerande och effektiva gåvor skall förmå oss till förnyat håll igång för ännu någon stund av evigheten. The loss of love, a rather common syndrome, I'm afraid. You carry on in spite of all with all your duties, businesses and burdens, straining constantly against the wind in never-ending, ever steeper uphill, trying to survive and to forget your losses, but you cannot do without them. They are always there reminding you of how it was when once you had it all, the whole world and no worries, just because you had someone to love. There is no compensation for that loss. No workaholism, no obsession will suffice to make up for that emptiness. And all you can do is to struggle on and cry at times for all that nothing that you got as a reward for all your sufferings, while none of all your losses ever was intentional, deserved or fair. Vintertarantella. Vi dansade på ängarna långt bortom ovanför Palermo och druckna av citronparfymen från de prunkande fruktträdgårdarna, där i träden apelsinerna varmt lyste liksom guld, berikande den vällusttyngda doften, medan tarantellan aldrig kunde sluta, då vi dansade från kust till kust och aldrig kunde få tillräckligt av det pastorala frosseriet, medan allt vi sökte var egentligen blott glädjens värme och befrielse. Så kan man drömma även mitt i vintern, fast i drivans järngrepps oförsonlighet och grymma råa kyla. Och mot sådan hjärtlighet i drömmen med dess evigt varma ljus och glädje förmår vintern faktiskt ingenting. Ice Age reflection. Who can believe in spring in this diverted ice age of deep freeze, constance in lethargy, depression, anguish and sterility, where there is hardly any space and outlet but for languishment, surrender and despair? They say the snow is white and pure and beautiful. It is, of course, but just to look at, not to live in. And we are obliged to be snowed in indefinitely, ruthlessly buried alive by winter. Still the spring is somewhere waiting for us, although it seems farther off than ever, hardly even to be dreamt of by a realist. And meanwhile we will have to be content with all the charm of this delightful, pure white, beautiful sterility and hardness of at least a temporary ice age. Istidsreflektion. Vem kan tro på våren mer i denna vilsekomna istid av komatisk, djupfryst letargi, försmäktande depression och liksterilitet, som knappast ger utrymme mer för något annat än uppgivenhet, förtvivlan och kapitulering. Några påstår dock att snön är ren och vit och vacker, och visst är den det, men bara då att titta på, och ej att leva i och vara levande begravd i, vilket vi är dömda till att vara i oändlighet tills vidare. Dock finns det någonstans en vår som väntar oss, och den verkar mera avlägsen än någonsin, och knappt ens någonting att drömma om för realister, medan vi får vackert vara nöjda under tiden, med all denna vithets charm och underbara renhet i den vackra hårdhetens sterilitet hos denna åtminstone tillfälliga istid. Old mortality. She is always waiting there to catch you as you fall, the mother of existence, the safe insurance at the end, the final liberator, guaranteeing total freedom, old mortality, the certain harvester of all, who by his mere existence offers you the opportunity of life to hover at your wildest, no height and no distance being too severe, no possibility being restricted. That old death awaiting at the end ensures you every liberty of life, within the only limit that you must return to him, where he awaits you with a silent promise or a half one. There's his only doubtfulness, that he might launch you on another start. Om vinterns försåtliga inflytande. Vetenskapsmän har upptäckt att vinterkyla kan ha långtgående allvarliga psykiska konsekvenser. Nu är det bevisat, vintern gör en dum i huvudet. Man blir trött och trög och slö och tung. Och det är inte alls ens eget fel, men bara vinterns och dess kylas, att man blir så deprimerad. Vinterns depressivitet är närmast då en farsot och en smittsam sjukdom som påverkar alla negativt. Man är ej ensam om att bli en idiot, för alla andra blir det också. Och det värsta är att det tar tid att återhämta sig, och desto längre tid ju längre kylan håller i sig. Är det då för kallt för länge föreligger risken att man aldrig blir normal igen. Förslappningen blir kronisk och obotlig, liksom den omärkliga fördumningen. Så det är kanske lika bra att bara gräva ner sig genast. Musikens språk. Musikens språk är det enda transcendentala språket, då det är det enda språk som förstås av alla språk utan förkunskaper. Även den mest omusikaliska människa kan förstå en enkel melodi och därav bringas till känslomässig reaktion av upplyftande slag, vilket knappast något talat språk i samma mån kan göra. Dock har musiken sin egen grammatik, ehuru enkel, utan vilken musiken inte har någon mening. Liksom en språksats måste bestå av subjekt och predikat för att alls ha någon mening, kräver musiken melodi, harmoni och rytm. En melodi kan vara utan harmonik och rytm, men är då naken och behöver kläder. Harmoniken är den fulländade kostymen, kläderna gör mannen, medan rytmen gör den mera skräddarsydd och passande, så att den kan klä vem som helst. Men med dessa tre komponenter, melodi, harmoni och rytm, är musiken oslagbar som språk och tränger igenom överallt, överglänser alla språk och förenar dem, till vilka språk och ord som helst kan sättas till musik. Den inneboende kosmiska ordningen i musiken är därtill så fullkomlig i sin natur och så ren i sin begripliga abstrakthet att den i regel alltid har en positiv, upplyftande och inspirerande verkan. Den är i sig ett ideal i sin oantastliga abstrakthet. Den är, som Leonardo da Vinci sade, det abstrakta konkretiserat, och kan därmed sägas utgöra en förenande länk mellan idévärlden och verkligheten, med en sorts prometeisk funktion i en upplyftande verkan för människan. Beethoven såg sig själv som en Prometheus, som stal elden från gudarna för att ge den åt människorna. Kort sagt, musiken har just det som alla språken saknar, det där lilla extra, som bättre kan förena alla språk och folk och nationaliteter än vad någon politisk talare kan göra. Säg det med musik och budskapet går fram, medan nästan alla predikanter alltid talar blott för döva öron. The language of music. It's the only transcendental language, as the only language to be understood immediately without prerequisites. The most unmusical person can understand a simple melody, and thereby be brought to an uplifting emotional reaction, which hardly any other language is capable of to the same degree. However, music has its grammar, which is simple, but without which music is but noise without a meaning. Like a sentence must consist of subject and predicate, and predicate to convey any meaning, music must have melody and harmony and rhythm. A melody can exist without harmonics. A melody can exist without harmonics and rhythm, but is then naked and needs dressing up. Harmonics is the perfect costume, while rhythm will make it fit to any purpose universally. And thus, with these three components, melody, harmony and rhythm, music is superior as language and will get through anywhere, outshine all languages and unite them, for any word and language can be set to music. The natural cosmic order within music is so consummate in its nature and so pure in its comprehensive abstractness that it generally always has a positive, uplifting and inspiring effect. It's something of an ideal in itself, in its unassailable abstraction. It is, as Leonardo da Vinci said, the abstract made concrete, and could thereby be described as a unifying link between the ideal world and reality, with a kind of Promethean function of uplifting effect to man. Beethoven sometimes regarded himself as a modern Prometheus, stealing fire from the gods to light up man. In brief, as a language, music has what all other languages lack, the something extra, which better can unite all languages and people and nations than any political speaker can do. Say it in music and the message will get through, while almost any preacher always preached to only deaf auditions. Skrotarsvängen. Ingen får ges möjlighet att undgå den allmänna medborgerliga plikten till konsumtion av skräp och skval till förbannelse. Du måste vara med i skrotarsvängen, konsumera mera, köpa mera skräp och njuta av reklamkanalerna i tv varje kvart, de upplysande avbrotten i varje film när den är som mest spännande, som lämplig distansiering till engagemanget, och reklamen är ju alltid upplysning, varenda konsumeringskommendering om igen, varenda kvart, för upprepningspedagogikens skull. Och följ sig noggrant med allt vad som händer inom sporten. Ingen stress är mer hysterisk eller viktig. Hänger du ej med i stresssamhällets mediehjärntvätt med dess absoluta krav på ständigt mera konsumtion, så är du ute och passé och har ej någonting i samhället att göra, som är bara till för dem som hjälper till i den universella självförtäringens självdestruktivitet. The sin of beauty. If the attractiveness of beauty is a sin, then every sin is beautiful and should be obligatory in every education, taught at school and wallowed in as subject, universally, for health and benefit to everyone. But I think beauty is much better than a sin. It is a medicine and remedy against all ugliness, the opposite of everything in life that drags you down, the counterpart and other side of history, excluded shamefully from ordinary history accounts, while only beauty managed to survive it. So let's dedicate ourselves to the exoneration constantly forever of the sin of beauty, which you never really can have quite enough of. The problem with beauty. The problem about beauty is it is too beautiful. Every beauteous lady is too beautiful, and you can never have them all, and even if you have one of them, that is not enough, since there is always someone else who happens to be even more beautiful. The eyes cannot resist the charm of beauty. You just have to fall for every one of them. There is not a chance of an escape, while more often than not you are deluded and the beauty proves to be a mask of shallowness, which only complicates the problem. Thus you learn with age to look beyond the mask of beauty, and eventually will discover that real beauty has no permanence except within the soul. Skönhetens problem. Skönhetens problem är att den är för skön. Varje vacker kvinna är för vacker och du har i någon möjlighet att få dem alla. Även om du vinner en av dem så är det aldrig tillfredsställande då det finns alltid någon vackrare. Skönhetens förtrollning är oemotståndlig, man kan bara falla för den, man kan bara falla för varenda vacker kvinna, och att komma undan detta är omöjligt, medan man dock snart blir offer för sitt eget självbedrägeri, när det som oftast skönheten blott visar sig en mask för avgrunder av ytlighetens tomhet, vilket bara komplicerar skönhetens problem. Så lär man sig med åren att se bortom skönhetens maskeringskamouflage och där upptäcka att verklig skönhet aldrig är bestående utom i själen. Avatar blues. Blue is beautiful, especially when it is natural, as in those precious beings living there among the trees of utopian world Pandora in perfect symbiosis with all living things with deeper harmony and empathy than any human being here on earth. A monster race of egoism and strife, a self-destructive and unnatural absurdity which most of all is qualified for war and secondly for greed. That's all the history is all about. And yet this blue race in the sky was actually invented here by man, a wonderful result of his imagination, like an ideal and alternative humanity who hasn't yet committed those mistakes that ruined mankind's history. And that is all that we can learn of, our own creativeness and fantasy, the striving for idealism that never left us, but made us go on in spite of all against our own destructiveness, to maybe one day triumph after all? That actually may be our only hope. Philosophical digression. The exquisite subtlety of genderless love is best expressed in music, someone told me, for its capability of the extremest tenderness without temptation of exaggeration or of going any step too far. Which brings me to the possibility that music actually might be the very heart and essence of love, language and expression, hardly able to get further purified and concentrated. That brings us to the more wondrous possibility that love is truest without genders. Could it possibly be true? Well, anyone could fall to music when it is a love expression, and to that fall sex and gender are superfluous. Utsvävning. Könlös kärleks utsökta subtilitet uttrycks bäst genom musiken, sade någon, för dess fallenhet för ömhet in absurdum, utan risk för överdrifter eller överfall, eller ens för möjlighet att gå för långt, vilket leder oss till möjligheten att musiken kunde vara själva hjärtat och essensen för det rena kärleksspråket och dess uttryck, som nog knappast kunde bli mer rent och koncentrerat. Detta för oss till den ännu märkligare möjligheten att kärleken är verkligast och sannast utan kön. Kan verkligen det vara sant? Vem kan åtminstone falla för musiken när den ägnar sig åt kärleks uttrycksfullhet? Och i sådant fall är både sex och kön helt utan all betydelse. Youth. The youth is always there no matter how it ages. You are never dead and gone since once you were alive, and that life at its best is what survives forever. In its supremest health and beauty, vitality and charm and fragrance, you can never lose it, even if you die, and aging is just maturation. All the best parts of your life and person are embedded in your soul, to there shine forth in splendid continuity forever. Ungdom. Ungdomen är alltid där, hur än den åldras. Du är aldrig död och borta eftersom du en gång levt. Och ditt liv när det var som bäst är vad som alltid lever vidare i sin kraft, skönhets bästa hälsa, charm, vitalitet och energi som ej någonsin kan gå förlorad även om du dör. Och åldrandet är bara mognad. Allt det bästa av ditt liv och din person bevaras kontinuerligt i din själ, för att där ständigt lysa vidare i upphörlig härlighet för alltid. Paradise speculation. Tell me, what is paradise? This strange ideal that everybody dreams of, but which no one yet has seen. But ask me, for I know it. The problem is, it is not practical, nor physical, nor tangible in any way, but purely intellectual. A utopia which, however, does exist and everyone is well familiar with, who knows about ideals and dreams and beauty and the charm of knowledge and its acquisition. If it were to be defined at all, I would fain liken it to sitting down in peaceful studies, listening to soothing music, letting creativity flow forth. That is the only paradise I know, and that is good enough for me. Some ordinary beating around the bush. My heart belongs to you, it always did. I never had it for myself, but only for my love, who kept it never to herself, but always kept returning it to me, so that I could continue giving it to her in perfect continuity, as long as love goes on, as long as life goes on, as long as I can still adore you, which I never could stop doing so far, since your beauty always was of some eternal irresistibility, which keeps me going on, and which could keep me going on, if not forever, then at least for all eternity at the time being. Diagnosis. The ecstasy of love is like a dream materialized, but still remaining dreamlike in its nature and its substance for all its tangible reality, transporting you from that reality to the more esoterical dimensions of eternal dreams, while still your love remains at present all too real to not be true, in spite of its extraterrestrial substance, cleaving you in half and double, stranded in reality, with undeniable eternity of all too present love. There is no way out but capitulation to eternity, to love, all in a fickle moment of the fleeting now. Spooks. They are always there and waiting for you in the mists of apocryphal mystery, in other dimensions of paranormality, but always ready for you to welcome you back to their eternal and extraterrestrial community, where you will always have a home amidst the continuity of undying philosophy, adoring love and beauty above all, that will triumph and expand forever, ignorant of any risk or chances of impediment. While in that zone there are no limits, only perfect freedom that can only grow at large, to ever keep that mystical philosophy alive, of beauty never waning and of love not ever fading. Stuck. You can cope with the entanglement and the ensnaring self-consumption of addictive love that traps you in a black hole of devouring exhaustion to just keep you prisoner with no escape, since you delight in the outrageous masochistic madness that eats up your soul in painful loss, until you languish in supreme despair. And yet the miracle phenomenon is this, that you just cannot stop, but must continue lusting, driving on in spite of all, in self-consuming and outrageous folly, since your energy in that direction is a black hole that can never be fulfilled or satisfied. And thus you keep on roller coastering without hope and no end, except in new black holes in darkness through the universe. Spring of youth, how could I else than love you for your irresistibility and charm and magic of eternal youth, transcending even timelessness and all conceivable dimensions, since you never are the same, although your beauty never changes, as if it was renewed each day, returning to its freshest basics. And thus can I never be relieved of you, but kept apace with you instead, renewed with you to ever greater love, in the eternal spring of love, which is but truth and beauty entertained. Comment. As my dreams come true, I think of you, the realizer of my dreams, transforming life into a paradise of dreams materialized into reality. So how can this result in less than an obsession? Stay by me, remain just as you are, and nothing could become more perfect, since I never was the one to ever give up love once I was sure of it. No sex, please, I'm single. For some bachelors, singularity is like a religion. Don't you dare to love me, I've had quite enough of love by sticking to the only safe one, loving just myself. I don't need any trespassing into my mind integrity and singularity, since sex is just a mortal exercise, destroying friendship and relationships, since no one marries anymore, except for masochistic separation and the sufferings of self-inflicted trauma. So I must advise you not to love me, so that I can love you even more. The loveliness of you is like a dream of you that lasts forever, which you never want to quit, but only wish to stick to, like to some eternal energy that constantly renews you, making you more active and alive for every moment of your life, as long as you remain in dreams, to never more wake up. The only possible awakening just being finding out that you no longer can wake up. Inevitably, what distances could ever separate us, and yet are we separated by the cruelty of distances that cannot reunite us for at least a year or more, with threatenings of even more, wherefore my heart is bleeding, evermore in tears for long-lost friends and friendships painful to remember, for their intimate profundity of love that had no chance to manage and survive, the cruelty of winter coldness stealing into hearts of men, allowing cruelty to steal into society and kill the true love of our minds with cold indifference and insensitivity. And yet you are still there, like me, just waiting for the reunification of the true love of our minds and for another spring of truth and love with beauty that inevitably always must return. Universal night of love. O night of love, how beautiful you are in your eternity of beauty ever growing like the universe of infinite expansion, of not just one bang but banging on forever, with all those black holes of love that ever bring forth other universes of eternal love, that evermore remain the only force of light and love that lighteth up the universe to keep it going on for all eternity, at least so far. Adoration. My beloved friend, our distance is some light years, maybe more, and yet we are within each other, constantly forever, never to return to earth or to mortality, since only true love is eternal, like virginity, if it survives, the symbol of which is your splendidly long hair that never ceases to entangle me, like some of you are equally entangled and obsessed by men that wear long hair. But I have never touched you, only loved you, true love being all too sacred to my heart to ever be imperiled, set at risk in any way. And I believe that love can never be more true and lasting than when it is firmly anchored in the adoration of the beauty of your soul. The night of love and ecstasy. It was the longest night of love and ecstasy, of triumphs and exhilaration, of divinest satisfaction, and the glorious victory of never reaching home and still be so victorious in endless happiness completely out of our minds, as if the whole world of a sudden had transformed into a paradise of new renaissance breakthroughs and discoveries in space of new and better worlds, inhabitable and quite within reach for mankind to continue her expansion like our love forever, and it did not even hurt. I will say only this: like I so long have been so true to you, I know now it will be bilateral, remain so, and I shall be always satisfied. Hjärtats sång. Sjung mitt hjärta ut din smärta med din glädje och din sorg, men låt ditt hjärta alltid sjunga. Och den vackraste av alla sånger är den rena sorgens som ej någonsin kan ta slut, men bara måste sjunga vidare av fröjd och smärta. För så länge som man lever, ty när sången din tar slut, är även livet slut. Happiness. You hide behind your beauty, veiled in mystery and sealed up in your secrets, like our love mysterious, unfathomable in profundity, and inescapable in actuality, our common life and meaning of our lives, the glory of our happiness, and endless joy of simply being close together and inseparable. What more could we need? We live in paradise in our love, but we can only spread our happiness by so remaining unknown in the mystery of our secret. Friendship. Love is risky and momentous, since you never know what is to come of it. A lovely dream to fly away with, flee into, abandoning yourself completely, to a temporary, unpredictable ideal that must eventually end up in unavoidable awakenings into reality, while friendship is the only safe and perfect bet, a base to build on for a lifetime and forever, which in no way does exclude the possibility and utmost joy of love. In fact, true friendship is the very essence of a perfect, lasting love, and only if you have that friendship, love could really last forever. Ecology for survival. The flood of light is overwhelming us in overwhelming force of love to bring a new age, neutralizing all the rotten business of mistakes and all historical disgraces, bringing nature back to rule and man away from madness. Nature is to be restored in splendid freedom as of old, to educate and chastise man for all his egoist insanity and hubris, clearing up the planet of his dirty spills, and thus shall nature reclaim earth, and man be taught a lesson for eternity. Intimate infinities. The sign of love is more than just a feeling. It is destiny itself intruding in your life, with over-evident manifestation, shocking miracles, and revolutionary turns that must inevitably change your life into a new direction of a new established love. I don't know how you did appear from nowhere, but you undeniably are there, and I can never leave you, since the risk of any harm or torture is excluded from the start between us, which provides us with a world of possibilities. So let's just keep that course, abandoning ourselves to joys of love in this new universe between ourselves of intimate infinities of love. Endurance. The bitter separation of farewell is like a forced commitment to asylum, or into a painful exile of no visible or knowledgeable end, and bitter tears will flow to wash all oceans, until the return to source of lasting love in friendship and in truest lovers' breasts will fill us once again with basic energy of love and pride to face all challenge with. The challenge is to always keep your love no matter how much you are separated. And if love is true indeed, not even death shall ever keep you off it. The flight. The only true love is ideal love, overwhelming and transcending all reality and its impossibility, the limitations and the unreliabilities, uplifting and upkeeping all that matters, the integrity of the supremacy of the transcending soul that always like a butterfly must needs break all the mortal flesh to ever keep on wings as high as possible and flying on into eternity. Love is a flight and can but keep on loving while she stays on flying. Is it worth it? Why is love and sorrow so inseparably linked in closer intimacy with each other than almost any other human feelings? Must love always lead to worries without end and sorrows without bottom? Is that really unavoidable and natural, inevitable consequences of delights of love? I cannot answer that, but I am afraid that in all my experience I never had a glimpse of any contrary to all that love resulting but in woe. But it is beautiful, and that might be its ultimate salvation and reward. And of such wonder is that beauty, that whatever woe and sorrow would be worth it, even every pain and worry, torment and despair. So just accept it and go on, and follow love's course bravely on the road to any trial and perdition. But you will survive and be rewarded, for as long as you stay on as lover. Quiet declaration. Let me not trespass in my daily visits to your precious side, nor come too close when it is night and I once more can't do without you, but must steal into your soul to stay there warming up my tenderness and love for your prevailing beauty and the wise profundity of your immortal soul. Methinks I have already loved you for some moderate eternity, and I'm always ready for another one of only love of you. The black hole secret. The origin of creativity is always but humility, to serve and not be seen, to give without demand, to love in one way only, not expecting to be loved. And that way you will find a way to an entire universe of creativity and love from just a basis of humility, originating in a bottomless black hole, forever spewing forth infinities of love and stars and nebulae, the ever irresistible big bang of love, at bottom just a perfect nothing. En enda droppe. Det enda som behövs är blott en enda droppe till all världens oceaner, som ett bidrag till att inte låta oceanerna försvinna. Men den enda droppen är då desto mera viktig då den är personlig. Ingenting är viktigare, ty den oceanen är all världens kärlek, varför varje droppe är så viktig. då just denna ocean ej någonsin får torka ut. Och viktigast av allt är därför att varenda en av oss åtminstone en gång kan gråta blott en enda tår, en enda droppe som ett bidrag, så att kärleksoceanen aldrig torkar ut. One drop of love. All you need is just a single drop into the ocean for a contribution, not to let the oceans vanish or run dry, but that one single drop is utterly important, since that ocean is the world of love, and every drop is needed not to let the oceans vanish or run dry. And that is why it is so mightily important that we cry at least one drop of love. No hope as yet, as my love of you is only getting worse, expanding me to death and overstrain, in constant spiritual exhaustion. Your obsession is a haunting spectre, never leaving me alone, but always edging me along, in constant worries and unease, and there is never any cure for love. So keep the whirlwind roaring, hunt me down if you can make it, and I'll just keep on running, chasing you as well, through all the torturous unrests of hell, with just one single hope, like some faint light in the far end of this the darkest of all tunnels, that of one day maybe reaching some kind of a settlement. Lover in disguise, you'll never even get the chance to get at my identity, or to at all suspect me of what I really am, and thus my freedom is complete to fill my universe of love with affluence of generosity, for that perverse, atrocious love that haunts me never to leave me in peace, demanding ever overstrained expansion unto death and beyond. But, as people say, in love and war there are no rules, but only limitless allowances for anything. The tolerance of freedom is atrocious, and I claim that privilege to go on loving you in safe disguise as anything but that exaggerated lover that I am. Memories of my first love. Although this was written more than 3 years ago, for some reason it was never published before. You bring me back my first love just by your existence with your long, amazing hair, exactly as my hippie bride of 30 years ago, who just like you enchanted all her world and made all men go drown themselves in craziness. Since then, nothing has changed at all. I am still young and green, naive and potty, and consider the whole world my own, since it is dancing all just for my love, and I am omnipotent as a lover, since I have you for my love, the only goddess of eternity, who keeps my love alive forever, just by existing as my first perpetual love that never dies. En gammal musikers klagan. Den ljuva tystnadens musik är som en balsam för min själ, i mitt utslitna ålderstigna tillstånd, handikappad och martyriserad av allt oljuds barbari, det hårda, onaturliga och destruktiva barbariets hysteri och stressoväsen, ljudmiljöförstöringen som överträffar all tortyr, då endast den musiken är naturlig och perfekt som kommer ut av tystnaden och all naturens stilla ackompanjemang. Låt mig få vila där i otseglig isolerings härlighet, i fulländningens säkerhetsmiljö, där man i stilla ödmjukhet i evighetens oändliga djup får höra universums renaste musik i tystnadens totala skönhet. Creation. The key to creativity is nothing but humility, to serve and not be seen, to give without demand, to love in one way only, not expecting to be loved. And that way you will find a way through your own universe of love to foster it, create it and maintain it, like a secret garden of your own, of only love, of infinite expansion. But the key is absolute humility, to concentrate on love alone without expecting any feedback. The urge of passion. The passion of my heart is neither to be quelled or quenched. The voice is singing loud and cannot be put down or quieted. For it is honesty of nature only, crying madly for a break and outlet, with the urge of natural necessity for justice, acceptance and acknowledgement, which love needs desperately all the time for its survival, and the urge of its continuous expansion, which is nothing less than just a natural demand and force of a most universal kind of all eternity. Thus passion must not be controlled, but must be let alone, let out, and granted absolute and perfect freedom, or there will be never any worse debacle than when love, once set on fire, is refused and must backfire. Seduction, stealing forth from nowhere, overwhelming you with mystic might, endowing you with force and power. Irresistibility is all there is, and all you can do is surrender, utterly, completely and forever, fooled by the delusion of eternal pleasure, and it is indeed enjoyable enough as long as it keeps working. But the trouble is, it is mortality itself. It always must come to an end, and all you can do is to compromise and learn to live with love and death together as two opposites inseparable, and if you can manage that, you might be able to go on as lover after all seductions of both love and death. An old musician's complaint. The sweet sound of silence is a balsam to my ear in my decrepit old condition, handicapped and martyred by the noises of barbarity, the brutal banging of unnatural destruction, sound pollution worse than any torture, while the only natural and perfect music comes from silence and the softer rumours of all nature. Therein let me lie and rest in splendid isolation of the perfect recreation of environmental safety, where in humblest silence you can hear the music of eternity and purest universal beauty. The clandestine lover. Love needs prudence and consideration, which are carried easily too far, and leading into traps of cowardice, but there are always byways roundabout to keep you on the target, so that you don't have to give yourself away to all the world for all your love, and at the same time still remain complete and honest as a lover. But whatever others think of you for all your hypocritical prudential cowardice, your heart can never tell a lie, for all the masks that decency demands, and as long as you stay true and constant to the overburning and consuming love of your bereaved and tortured heart, you will survive and conquer all as the most honest and convincing lover. The risk of wages. The wages of sin is death, but the wages of love is life. Love is then to get away from death, and thus is death its greatest spurner. Thus are all good things that make life meaningful dependent on their opposites for spurning inspiration. The fountain of exhilaration is depression. Nothing can be crueler than the acts of love, and ecstasy can come from lethal drugs. Is this duality then inescapable? Is this duality then inescapable, and must euphoria be dependent on affliction? Well, the only way to deal with that dilemma is eliminating both extremes and leaving you with only boredom, which in bleakness could be worse than any depressivity. And who wants that, who wants to live? Life's natural addiction. If love is an affliction and addiction, let me wallow in it then the more, get buried in its abysm of delights, go under in its oceans of generosity, and drown forever in its storms and waves, and never reach the bottom of its deepest grave. For love is life, and there's no other life, and all the rest is just adornments and embellishments of this one central thing, to love, enjoy its freedom, and get lost in it. It's not a sexual thing. It is the joy of giving up yourself in the communication with another. And the sex is really of no matter. But if there are children as a consequence of nature, that is the supreme reward, of course. Refuge. Let us disappear together in a haze of love and mystery, and vanish into mists of dreams where we are free to relish ourselves together without interference, way beyond this universe and all society of stifling rules, where we are free to be ourselves and can enjoy each other in indefinite expansion. Let them wonder where we are, since no one needs to know about it, but ourselves, where we can be together without ever risking any more to lose each other. Adorable unattainability, your beauty supreme, and I can only worship you with awe and admiration for your absolute perfection as the final consummation of the everlasting love ideal, which, though, is only philosophical. There's the rub, that I can never reach you, since you are too perfect and too beautiful to be attainable. But let me be content and grateful for the wondrous fact that you at all exist. Demaskering. Det är över. Föreställningen är slut. Det är nu bara att gå hem och kasta masken. Lämna puppan för att övergå till intet, reducerad till ett fladder. Har blott ensamhetens vingar kvar, helt utan tillgjordheter. Tysta, torra tårar utan färger. Den av grämelse och saknad mättade melankolin, den brustna kärlekens fåfänga nederlag, besvikelsernas överväldigande beskhet och den tysta sorgens allomfattande betryckthet. Någonstans i detta ödeshav av övergivenhet så finns dock du, förlorad liksom jag, fullständigt utblottad och naken inför världens realistiska okänslighet, där ingenting är som det borde vara, och den enda trösten i dess mörka ormgrop är att vi dock har varandra. The extremity of love, there are no bounds, and yet we are in thraldom of our love and its forbidden nature. It is limitless and universal, but confined by human nature, never to get publicly expressed or comprehensible in human terms, since it is too extreme to ever be defined. Perhaps that is the very definition of true love, completely bound in silence, but the more expansive, free, dynamic, and outrageous for its deprivation and humiliation. Although beyond all conventional qualification, we are the more free in love's exaggeration. Joyfulness. You are my joy with all your lovers, spreading beauty everywhere like some magic fairy queen, on special visit for some inspiration, like on some esoteric mission, which seems well to prove efficient. Am I not proud to be your foremost lover, then, who never found but harmony in your society, of love and beauty to infinity, and no small lustful nights between? Can I hope for this to be a continuity? Of course, we always did return from any wayward journey, but my chief concern is this, that even our journey through eternity on wings of love more stable than the earth must reach an end and harbour, temporarily at least. How shall I describe, complimentary, how shall I describe you? You transcend all idealization, making all description vain and base, since words can never give you justice. How shall I describe your beauty, indescribable and indispensable, as is your enigmatic and evasive personality, that baffles any lover and admirer and adorer? Yes, you are the realest kind of lady, like an esoteric queen, that never can be grasped by definition. Still one thing is too concrete to be denied, the beauty of your long and splendid hair, the sweetest thing to touch in all existence, smooth as water and attractive as a waterfall of darkest diamonds. Let my adoration be arrested there in stupefaction at your lovely hair, a true manifestation of your sovereignty in both beauty, character, and love. The way out, in the vacuum of despair and darkness, overcast with hopelessness and desert gloom, the blackness of my life turned into a blind alley of abandoned and decrepit incapacity, you kindled something of a ray that turned into a dominating lightning, growing to full glorious daylight sunshine, which since then has been my solace, actually my only spiritual comfort. Stay that way, my love, abide with me, and never fade again into the shadows that you came from, of atrocious sufferings and bad experience, and it will be my pleasure to sustain you by all means with all my heart, and thus perhaps we might turn all existence and the world into a better place. Förförelsen. Vad är kärlekens krafts innersta mysterium? Är det att man älskar själv eller att en annan älskar en? Kommer kraften utifrån, från någon annan än en själv, eller är den inifrån och egen? Ingen vet. Det enda säkra är väl att man aldrig är helt ensam om den, att den måste vara dualistisk, ömsesidig för att kunna existera och fungera. Och då lutar jag åt det mysteriet att det är två själars samklang som det handlar om, som på något sätt har en kontakt utöver den materiella, som tycks klart manifesteras när två själar har bestående kontakt fastän den fysiska kontakten saknas. Det är nog om något äkta kärlek som består i andra dimensioner än i bara tid och rum. Home from Siberia, out of love and out of touch, it's been a difficult divorce, compulsory of course, and something of an edifying challenge, since detachment reinforces basics. It has been a lesson of survival, hastening a singular condition for maturity, a new expansion towards what we can't know anything about. The abyss of the great unknown, the enigma of the closed door of the future. We exist, and that should be enough for our sustained love to continue ever more to greater depth and more profound expansion, being locked within each other in a permanent and endless union. The falsity of the ego. Developing an ego must end up in the blind alley of frustrated lies, unless you cultivate it only for an educational experiment to find where destiny would lead you if you give free reins to your imagination and the freedom to create a fancy ego just to sacrifice it on the altar of self-analysis, criticism and scrutiny. You don't have a self in any case, so you might anyway just blow it up to see and learn where vanity would lead you. Truth remains, and when your egos are consumed, you will have learned at least the lesson of responsible detachment. New worlds of wisdom. When you hit the bottom of the dark, at least you have some ground to stand on, even if it is the bottom of an abyss, without light, with only sin and wickedness, with everything gone wrong, no hope in sight, but misery and torture, suffering and languishment. But it is not the end, it's the beginning of a climb to any heaven. From the bottom you can only rise above all shadows to the light, and you will never fall again. That is the wisdom of a total downfall. You will have a new perspective of the universe, being able to include it all. Estrangement. The strangest situation has developed of our love that no one could have had a notion of. You are all mine, and I have never loved you more, although you have done everything to alienate yourself by a development that could but be described as something of an alien labyrinth to Wonderland, where nothing any more is what it seems to be. Still, my love, you are the same. The world has changed and been turned upside down, but our love was only fortified thereby, and passion has been reinforced most thoroughly into a more established fusion than before. So anything might happen, so it seems. Disasters may occur and shock the world, and our love will only be the stronger for all trials of estrangement. Fusion. We are intertwined, two personalities in one, two lives united to one destiny, a hotter union than a marriage, less interruptible, since you are everything I ever loved, although you are my contrary. We are completely uncombinable, and therefore so inseparable. In our nightly orgies there is more pain and suffering than revelries of pleasure, love claiming more than ordinary heartaches. But those heartbreaks fuse us even harder in the union of our sin together, and so are we one but cleft in twain. The one insurance of our via crucis is that anyone is free to leave at any time, and that's the last thing any one of us can do. You are my soul. You are my soul. You are my everything, and I am lost in you. When I return exhausted and washed up from all my work, after a tedious day of overtime, I would have nothing to come home to if you were not there to whisper new encouragement into my blasted, bleeding soul, that would run out of blood if I did not have you as a refill. So let me go to sleep in you, enfolded in your blessed arms, to wake again tomorrow to another day of hard work's torture, without you, but having you to wait for me to save it. Redemption. How could you be so quiet for so many years of suffering, my love, who never vanished from my sight, however much you tried to hide yourself away? But you were always there. I tried to reach you and was never quite without you, until you so suddenly appeared again, like some redemption angel from our heaven, reaching through all darkness of my soul to prove yourself as true as ever. Blessed be thy light and soul, so true to your nobility, so constant in your loveliness, and all I need now is to see you live again as the realization of the truth of our relationship. Empires crumble to dust, and nothing remains but delusion. The acid bitterness of lost hopes, the desperation of futility, the incurable sense of failure, and thus they all went down. Jerusalem and Egypt, Babylon and Persia, Athens, Rome and London, and America will be no exception. The truth is what survives, the sordid underground reality, the moles that always remain to grind new empires to pieces, the will that triumphs over all politics, the destiny that reduces dreams to ashes, the downfall of all hubris of eternity, and all we have is shades of what we've lost and never can retrieve again, on which we always start again to build new empires. Ditched, sleepless nights of love accompanied by nightmare worries for your fate of persecution, of old sins and undeserved adversities, make me as shattered as yourself, directly torn asunder by misfortune, hanged in execution after torture, but with some hope left of liberation still before the final strangulation. No one wanted this, not even the irresponsible bureaucracy, while the villain is the lack of empathy, the formalism of rules of programmation, for which no one is accountable, for which no one is accountable. Thus are you casually buried alive, and I with you in dreadful worries, quite atrociously insensibly, and there is nothing we can do but wait in limbo for an unknown opening, which no one knows when it will come. All we can do is to be true, at least, to ourselves and our destiny, which carries us through mortal vanity in this perpetual and bothersome unrest to no peace in eternity. To life. Take care of life, don't bust it. It's too precious to be wasted. Life should only be constructive. It is in itself creativeness, created just to multiply and manifest its vividness, and that's the meaning of it all. No matter what queer forms life takes, so long as it is life, it's sacred, and the joy of it is all that matters. Death exists only to enhance life's meaning, and so even death is life and only life. So don't misuse it and don't sabotage it. Live, let live, support and further lives of others, and the more you live yourself, that's all, the summary of life. Confidence. The narrow straits are dire, they are strewn with traps and dangers. There are reefs and shallows everywhere, but improvising through the crooked path with care and calm and cool determination will eventually bring all things through without as much as the minutest scratch, if only you avoid temptations and bad temper. If you lose it, everything is lost. Thus will you save your love through any danger, and each trial will be only for the best edification and good lesson of survival. Beauty rules. My love is like a dream in May, forever fragrant and expanding, gloriously embellishing all life with beauty, ever present, ever faithful, ever true, and ever lovelier with her long hair and timeless youth that never ages, since she is her soul and not her matter, ever sweet, constructive and inspiring, almost like a fairy or an elf, but more substantial in her essence. Beauty is a matter mostly of the soul, and therein lies the immortality of beauty, of which she is the manifestation. Soul is freedom and the only truth that evermore survives all age, mortality, and time, and outwits all mundaneness with a sovereign wisdom of transcendence. The climb. In the depth of chaos, I'm lost like in the bottom of a well, and cannot see a light in hopelessness, but must escape reality in order to find any comfort and relief at all. But there is always you awaiting in the tunnel end, a warm and soothing heart to ease the torture of reality and calm my wounded soul that without you has almost bled to death, but now revives at the mere thought of you. Thus can a thought and the mere virtual presence of a person cause the strangest miracles, and all you need is to believe in the reality of something better to achieve a climb from the abysmal bottom to the highest state of any perfect heaven. Thanks. I love you despite your weaknesses and faults. Your age has never bothered me and should not be a problem to yourself, since we are young at heart and in our souls, no matter how old souls we are. And that's the only age that matters, the age you feel that tends to ever in your soul grow younger, and wherein lies the true beauty of a person, her continuity and truthfulness to her own self. That beauty is to me the highest, which I find in you and never shall get lost, for you are you, and you have ever been the same, and for that I beg to serve you with my constant thankfulness. Welcome, my love, where are you in the dark? I miss you and can't find you. We are disconnected and disjointed, but for the time being only. You are always with me anyway, not only in my thoughts, but in my heart. Your soul has made a home in it, and I shall never kick you out. You have entered to remain, and I shall never be at home myself if you are not at home in me. So please stay on forever, and you'll never have a safer haven than in the protection of my loving heart. The hidden bottle. You have to have it, that hidden bottle in the back, your life's elixir, the most indispensable of medicines, the only one to always cheer you up, that whiskey bottle that so many times have saved your life from devastation and depression, giving up, and other fatal suicidal steps. Your friend is always there to serve your spirit, and if he is missing, then you have another one at hand and always ready to provide you with some continuity of courage, stalwartness, and intrepidity. Your friend in need, indeed, forever your bartender. Black love. In the blackness of my heart you stir some mystic fire that devours me and turns me on in sleeplessness night after night. My problem is the question if it's you or me that stirs the fire, or are we in it both together? You are always free and I can't keep you there, while I am prisoner of this weird love that never quite can leave me for a moment. Your freedom keeps me prisoner, and I can never hold you back, infringing on your independence, since you are a part of me, and I can never let you go. Halfway. The smoothness of our love is like a flower that will not wither, but just goes on flowering again, renewing constantly the beauty and exploding into newborn blossoms at every risk of fading or of tiring. That is the ordinary course of love when it is natural and ripe, when it has reached a state of harmony which makes it unassailable and incorruptible, a state which we have reached after some years, of trial horrors without end, and it actually feels like coming home. The plight of the Tibetans. We are the people that the world forgot, or rather just didn't care about, letting them be swallowed alive by China, the brutal dragon of force and no human rights, where the individual is worthless and negligible, while millions perishing in famine, floods or earthquakes is just statistics like for Stalin. But still we persist to exist, although the Chinese slowly but certainly since 60 years methodically work for our extirpation. We are allowed no human rights, no education, not our own language, traditions and culture, which all must be replaced by Chinese brainwash. If we flee our country, we are shot or caught and sent back to prison for correction brainwash, and that has been the standard procedure since 50 years. But the world doesn't care but kowtows to China, as now even Obama because of the Bush debt to China. The world sees only the good business of China and doesn't care if millions perish in the development, or if the Tibetan people and culture are extirpated on the way. Rugged weather. I didn't ask you for to take me for a ride. This journey proved a very different matter than we both expected and looked forward to, and I don't know who faced the worst, myself or you, but both our pairs of wings were singed indeed, which it will take some time to heal and to recover, since we were forced to get down hard to earth, to lick our wounds and heal our broken wings, and we were left without protection in the rain, with no good cloak to shelter us from frost, in our nakedness, forlorn like orphans. But others did fare even worse, and in comparison with them we were most lucky, for we always had and do still have each other. The master of reality. If all I ever felt about love was true, then one day of it would be enough to last 1,000 years. And I am sure that every day of it was true, for I have seen reality more real than any mean reality can dream of. Let it be that in your dreams you see beyond your sight, and that what you can see is more than all reality can boast of. So let not reality into your dreams, but let your dreams control your mind's reality, and they will take supreme and better charge of all the world as well. For all the world is but a fleeting dream created by your dreams, while that creation force, your dreams, is all that matters. Not to be trifled with, your horns stick out, but not with cruelty, but rather wit, sharp taste, acuteness, and delightful entertainment, crowned by your exceptional idiosyncrasies that provide your beauty and your charm with depth of labyrinthical dimensions of extensions which no man shall ever grasp or fathom. Let me love you, but at some safe distance, not to perish in your bottomlessness, like so many others did, of your soul's lair of webs and fascinations, like a cave which everyone is seen to enter with delight, but no one ever did come out of any more. Thus are you the most irresistible of mysteries, that everyone must love, but no one ever shall come through with. Celebration. The greatest cause for celebration, it would seem to be returning fully both to life and love, and celebrating it unendingly in a full night of only love. What difference does it make if we are wayward and away for months, if only we return back home once in a while, restoring all our love, revitalizing its capacity for timelessness, and its main trait, its contact with eternity, thus to immediately restore us fully to our health, vitality, and life, in order for us to again be able to be generous and waste it all in sumptuous fits of energy. As someone said once, all we need is love, and to maintain it, all we need is to enjoy it.